Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Disclosure Now, where we touch upon the soft disclosure film They Cloned Tyrone. It was recently released on Netflix, I think like just maybe a little over a couple weeks ago, and it's generating a lot of buzz. In general, it's a great film. It's fun to watch. It's got its funny moments. It's dramatic at the same time. It's kind of like a mystery. It's got science fiction aspects. It's a really good film, and I suspected that it was going to have some soft disclosure stuff going on, and oh boy, was I right about that. So let's just jump right into it, everyone. So I really liked this scene that's pretty early in the movie where he goes to the liquor store, he gets his Rillos, his 40, and his scratch offs, and he is walking out the store, and there's this homeless guy sitting there, and he's saying, "It's in the water, young blood." And he's kind of this archetype of like the schizophrenic homeless person that seems crazy, right? They're like talking about reptilians or whatever, and they sound like they're crazy, but really it's this person who has woken up to the mind control system around them, has seen too much, and understands things that other people can't understand. And what this does to a lot of people is this isolates them. They end up abusing drugs, alcohol, and they end up on the street, and they end up like this guy. We don't all end up with YouTube channels and followers and going to conferences and stuff like that. Uh, a lot of people end up mentally breaking down and just dealing with it in the best way they can, and they end up on the streets like this guy. And so, like I said, I thought it was a good archetype. Thought it was good that they showed that he seems like this crazy homeless person, and that's it. But really, he knows what's going on. He's clued into everything. So later on in the movie, they're at the drug dealer's house, and they get on this elevator here, and I've talked about this before. The movie ever even came out, that there are elevators in the city that I live in where you can get brought to the underground, and I have gotten brought to the down to the underground in these kind of elevators like this. This is like hidden in like a drug dealer's closet. They don't necessarily need to be hidden. They can just be a regular elevator. And what you would maybe have is an access code, or sometimes they'll have the key slots in there. If you have the key, you turn the key, and then you can type in an access code to bring you down. I'm not entirely sure how it works because I don't really remember, but I do know it's true. Um, I worked at a school where there was an elevator, and I would think I'm going up, but I'd actually be going down, and then they grab me from behind and they would mind wipe me. So it took me a while to figure out what was going on, but I eventually figured out what was going on, and it was connected to Solar Warden. It's a whole thing. I don't want to get into it, but that's one thing that this movie is moving past, not addressing, is the fact that the real clone programs are connected to the secret space programs. So there's a lot of stuff this movie doesn't address, but it also does a really good job of kind of painting a picture and making something of entertainment value out of the subject at hand. So um, once they get down there, they see the scientist guy. He's working on all this weird stuff. They end up accidentally killing him. Um, Again, if you haven't seen the movie, I should have probably said this earlier. I'm going to spoil the whole movie for you. So go back and watch the movie unless you don't plan on watching it. I wouldn't watch this first. But yeah, so they find the guy. They find basically that they're doing weird experiments. They end up finding a clone body. I should have gotten more pictures. They end up finding the clone of the main character, Tyrone. It's in a body bag. It's not alive. It's not activated. And they freak out and leave. And then they end up on the surface, and they go to this chicken place, and they realize everyone's acting very strange. And they're all laughing and acting psychotic almost. And one of the characters realized, okay, this is there's putting it in the chicken, the chemical in the chicken. That's what's going on. He's like, stop eating the chicken. It's like he realizes it's intoxicating them. And they show this more in the movie. They show it with grape drink, which I think that is it's art imitating real life. Red number 40 and Hawaiian Punch. Red number 40 is like a neurotoxin. There's certain people that can't drink, can't ingest red number 40 because it will literally like make them act crazy and see things and stuff like that. I've heard of this. So there are these chemicals that they're putting in our food and our water and stuff like that. There's another thing. It was like in the perm shampoo or something like that. This is real. Like you said, it's in the water, young blood. We all know about fluoride. Um, and yeah, they're just putting all sorts of chemicals and all sorts of stuff in our food. And we all know that we basically have to like watch out as far as what we eat and what we ingest, because they're trying to poison us. And not only that, some of these are like basically pharmaceuticals altering the way we think and feel, and we don't even realize that it's happening. So they address that in this movie. And then she's trying to get some information from this guy who's about the chicken and whatever it is they're putting in the food. And it's this back room, and he's got all these CCTVs. Now, this is like based on like the 70s or something like that. This movie, I don't know. It looks like it's older. It's supposed to be older. It's not current time. We have cell phones now. Every cell phone is tapped into this. They're monitoring what you buy. They're monitoring what you do, what you're looking at online, what you're liking, what your heart reacting. They know how you think and feel, and they're trying to figure out how to manipulate it in the best ways possible. And yeah, it's really really alarming. The fact that like it goes so much deeper than what this movie actually says is the fact that like we've got a tracking device, GPS, everything. They know everything about you. It's in your pocket. And not only that, with your debit card, they know what you're purchasing and what you're consuming. The CIA used to do stuff like they dig through people's trash to figure out what certain people were consuming and stuff like that. Now they don't have to do that. Like they want to know this stuff for whatever reason. They're trying to social engineer people because they're trying to, well, it kind of gets into it in the movie. We'll get into that later, but yeah, so this is not even as close as how messed up and how far expansing the surveillance is actually going on in real life is. So here's another part where shows the elevator, and like I said, it's not, they put like a key, there's like a key card on the side of this thing on top of the elevator. And then once they use the key card, they're able to, it opened up and they're able to get down there. Like I said, they just got normal elevators. Like they don't have to necessarily be so James Bond about it. Like they just got normal elevators that you can hack, and then you can, well, not, then you can use them for the purposes that other people don't even know they have. So here's them. She's looking at, well, they're looking at the screen here, and on the screen is the map to the deep underground facility, and that is a lot what they look like. And really, like, I'm pretty sure you can find leaked documents of deep underground facilities, and it looks a lot like this. So very true to form. But one thing that's different here is you can see in the background, it's very blurry, but it's all people. There are no ET. In a situation like this, like, okay, on the surface, it's a taboo to see an alien. That's not going to happen. But down there, it's pretty normal to run into an extraterrestrial in these underground facilities. And they don't depict that in this film, but that's the reality of it. They're not talking about the secret space programs. They're not talking about the ETs. They're not talking about alters and consciousness transferal. There's a lot of stuff they're not touching upon in this film. So here's the room full of clones. I maybe could have gotten a better picture, but they kind of look like almost like showers with the clones in the movie. That's not really what they look like. In real life, the clones are stacked. There's corridors, and they're stacked against the walls on the left and the right, and they're slightly leaned back against the wall. And yeah, there's kind of like a greenish glow to them. And yeah, they're they're a little bit different in real life. Not that that's that important, but and then he says they're trying to figure out, because they're looking at all the clones. They're like, is everybody down here? And it's just specific people over and over again, true to form, true to real life. That's how it is in real life. My mom was asking me about this the other day because I told her about how I have clones, and she was asking me, do they got clones of everyone, or how does it work? And I told her it's just specific people. And yeah, they've got clones of my mom too, and other people I know have clones. But that's a whole other thing. And most people are not aware at all. I know a few people who are, but most people that I know that have clones, look, I don't tell people about this stuff and nudge them into it and tell them the truth about themselves if they're not ready for it. And I know plenty of people who have zero memories, zero awareness that they have clones. And how am I aware? It's because they can't just copy a person and kind of write the neurons the way they want them to, like it's depicted in this movie. It's a little bit different than that in real life. What they do is, and I'll fast forward here. To get to this point. What they do is they create alters through torture, like this right here. Okay. It's pretty much exactly like that. They have a thing on your head, and then they got stuff strapped to your genitals and underneath your nails and stuff like that. And they torture you, and they use it to activate psychic abilities and stuff like that too. I've talked about all this stuff before this movie ever came out. And what they're doing is through trauma, they can induce a lot of people watching this. You already know this, but it's important that I say this for people who aren't aware. They create alters, which are pocket personalities, which if you're like let's say you have a traumatic event, like you get sexually assaulted when you're a young child. A lot of times what you'll do is you'll cover that memory up with a pocket personality, a different you that deals with those memories instead of you having to deal with those memories. So it's another person living inside you. That's how DID, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality disorder, gets created. And they intentionally stimulate this. And then they create pocket personalities, which they can take those shards of your soul, of your consciousness out, and then insert into clones. Like I said, they can't just turn on a clone. That's not how it works. They need a program running it, and that is your consciousness. And every single clone of you is you. It is you. It is not separate from you. It is you. And that's what people don't understand. That's the movie doesn't show. And then it shows here, you feel beautiful, and she's looking at the screens, and they're showing her all this stuff. This is MK Ultra mind control programming. It's real. This is how they make assets. Okay, so that's all real. And then they also show these two guys, they're fighting, and they got this song playing, "Kill a Motherfucker." Okay, and yeah, like this is real. Like they really are using music as mind control, people. I've been saying it for how long? It's mind control. And then they turn it to "I Need a Hug." And they chill out and they become friends. So that stuff is all real. That's all happening. That's all real. So yeah, just specific people over and over again. Okay. And then they end up on the surface, they get out of there, they get the hell out of Dodge. And of course they go to the club, and the mind control music is playing. And I'll address this because they show it in the movie so blatantly that yes, this music that you're hearing, where it's all about sex, it's all about money, people shooting each other and killing each other, and that's cool. That's mind control. All right, whether people want to accept it or not. Is hip hop and rap inherently a dangerous and bad art form? Absolutely not. It's been hijacked. KRS-One, the rapper, exists. He talks about high vibration stuff. He talks about same thing with Jedi mind tricks. He's talking about 9/11 being an inside job, this and that, like clones of Obama and stuff like that in his songs. Like, so like it's not like the art form is inherently this bad thing. And it started as a positive thing. Music is a positive thing, but they use it nefariously to control people. Okay. And that's the reality. Is you got songs that are glorifying killing each other and stuff like that, and making that cool. Then people think that's cool, then they go out and do it. That's the reality, and that's on purpose. So anyway, they show that the DJ is notified that these guys are coming in there, that these assets who are aware, that need to be programmed and subdued, are coming in. So he says intercept and subdue. So he's got songs like queued up for emergency purposes in case he needs to do this. Now, I've talked about this before this movie ever came out. I talked about how they use music to control people, how I can go out and do stuff and there'll be a jukebox at the bar or wherever it is that I'm at, and I can tell that the music being played on the speakers there is being played to manipulate me. That they know I'm there. And sometimes it's so ridiculous that I almost think they're trying to tell me they know I'm there, and they're trying to rub it in my face that they're following me and that they know everything about me and that they know where I am. Sometimes I really do think that. But the reality is they are programming people through music like this. They got certain songs that they can turn on certain times, and through color programming, meaning the strobe lights going off and stuff like that when people are dancing, and then certain songs, and then certain drugs. Okay, and sometimes the club's full of Molly, and you think it's just a coincidence that there's this great ecstasy at the club that night, and that everyone's able to get a hold of it. Sometimes that's like a psychological operation. Sometimes it's a psyop. It's all part of it. But they'll get you in the right psychological state. You're just intoxicated enough of alcohol. You're just enough having feelings of wanting sex because you're at the club and you're looking for a potential person to bring home that night. They get this cocktail of emotions and feelings and events happening, and then the color programming, and then the music, and they can activate alters with that. They can turn people on and get them to go do missions and stuff like that. Or they can just mind control you, manipulate you to not find that partner or whatever it is. Or maybe they want you to find this particular person that's programmed to manipulate you a certain way. What people need to understand, this is what I want to talk about, is this underground facility where they're monitoring our lives and like controlling them. This movie doesn't really go towards why they're doing that 100% correctly. Like why they're doing it all, why they're mind controlling people. It doesn't go into the secret space programs. It doesn't go into the fact that they're using people for labor. It's more like showing like, oh, a psyop going on, which to me, the psyop doesn't even make sense. Like, it's kind of makes sense, I guess, but like he's got to be a bad guy to destabilize the neighborhood, so people are afraid of going there so that they don't see this experiment going on. And this makes sense because like this is real, people. Like I said, like, okay, I'm from the Midwest, and I live close enough to Chicago where I've had people, tell me about like how they live in the hood, and crates of guns. Like, so this is like poor Black communities in Chicago. I've heard multiple people that have moved up here talk about like crates of guns showing up on the hood, just getting dropped off there. Crates full of drugs just getting dropped off there. Stuff like this. It's like they are literally putting the mind control music. Okay, y'all kill each other, giving them guns. It's real, dude. It's a psyop. They're trying to destroy the Black community. And that's why I think this movie gets it kind of off, is because they're not really showing that aspect of it. They're showing a different aspect of it. They're making it different. What they're talking about now, we can get into it. Here is he meets Fontaine later, which is himself. Okay. And he explains to them that the reason why they're doing this is because they're trying to get everybody on the same page. There's constant war, there's constant upheaval, and we're going to kill ourselves if it stays like this, is what he says. And so he's trying to make everybody the same race through genetic engineering. They're trying to make everyone the same race. They believe that it'll make us get along better and there'll be less problems. And while it's kind of pie in the sky and unrealistic that would solve all of our problems, this has been tried out in another timeline. And this is a real thing that more or less happened. Daryl James talked about it in my interview with him. I think it was in part 1. You can go back and look, and he talks about it. And he talks about how everyone kind of looked like Mike Pence and Mike Pence's wife, and it was really weird. And he met one of the guys from that timeline, and it didn't work out. It ended up failing, and that timeline collapsed. And that guy that's here, he can't go back to his timeline because it's gone. So, like, there was a timeline like this, but it's unrealistic to think that if you just make everyone the same race, that's going to just solve all of our problems. Maybe it would make us less likely to, but the thing is there is a reality that there are military, they do want us to get on the same page. The thing is they think that in order to do that, they're going to have to kill most of the population, and that's what we need to stop from happening. So anyway, I'm sorry if I'm going on all over the place. This isn't really structured with exactly how it went with the movie. But he also has implanted memories. And this kind of messed with me because it's like, okay, how many of my memories are implanted? What is my original life? It really made me wonder. And here's another shot of them cruising, and it shows the facility. And yeah, it's a lot like that. I've never seen scooters down there. The vehicles don't have to be enclosed like that. That's an enclosed vehicle. It's in an underground facility. The vehicles don't have tops. They're like metal, and they don't look like that. But yeah, sure, it's pretty decent depiction of it. Lots of people wearing lab coats. Um, there's aliens around too usually, so that's another thing. But um, so then later on, they see on the TV another version of Tyrone, and his friend says, "Isn't that you?" Because what they do in this movie is they release all the clones, and then there's just these clones walking around all over the place, and it becomes this thing, and it gets on the TV, gets on the news. And yeah, this is real. They have clones of different people all throughout the country. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I have clones out there. Like, people tell me that they run into me. Like, I know the phenomenon exists where, like, you run into someone that looks like someone, and then you're always like, oh, you're not Scott. Sorry. I thought you're my friend Scott. Like, yeah, that happens. But, like, also, like, pretty sure I have clones. And also, like, I've seen pictures. I've gotten sent pictures where I feel it's dangerous to show it almost. Like, here's the thing, when you encounter, like, when you know you could go see your clone, like, one of my authors told me the address of where one of my clones was. I talk about this in my Journey to Truth interview. And I was terrified when it came to that. Like, I didn't want to go visit my clone. Like, I didn't want to go meet my clone. I would have to be strapped, first of all. I don't know if he's a nice guy. I'm being used for black ops in the military program. So yeah, he's probably not gonna. Oh, I got makeup on my face from kissing my girlfriend. Sorry about that, guys. Well, that's what that is, in case you were wondering. It's from passionately kissing my girlfriend. Um, well, there you go. Anyway, um, I got distracted there. I'm sorry. Hopefully, you got a laugh out of that, audience. Um, forgot what I was talking about because I noticed that I had makeup on my face. Um, so yeah, they're oh yeah, they got copies of me. And I've seen a picture of this. Somebody sent me a picture of a woman who she said is me. She's like, this is a clone of you. And it's somebody who's in the programs is pretty woke. They understand more than me in a lot of ways. And they're just not a public person. They're not public. They don't do interviews and stuff like that. But they're at Montauk and stuff. And they sent me this picture. And yeah, look, the girl looks a lot like me. The lady looks a lot like me. It's probably a female clone of me, but I kind of wouldn't accept that at face value. I would just be like, well, she looks a lot like me. But no, not only that, there's this picture. She's at a wedding, and in this picture, this guy that looks just like one of my best friends, who also is aware he's in the programs and stuff. He's the friend that I have that I told him about the stuff. He's like, yeah, I know. I just didn't want to tell you about it because I didn't know how you'd handle it. So like he knew, and yeah, there's a clone of him. The guy looks just like him, and it's how could that be a coincidence? So yeah, I do think that there are clones. This is a real thing. They got clones of people set up throughout, and why? I don't know why. I can't tell you why they need to have all these clones of me and what they're doing, what the end game is. I really don't know, other than maybe to have easier access to me, to have me in different places, and then they can take from her consciousness or my consciousness, put me into clone bodies. Yeah. So that's another thing that's not addressed in this movie is like I said, they're monitoring their lives. It shows us this is him taking notes on a phone call. And like I said, man, they like the CIA used to dig through people's trash to figure out what they're eating. Now they can just look at the receipts of what people are buying with their debit cards and stuff. And so they don't have to do all that. And they're manipulating our lives. And what this movie doesn't show either is like there's so many aspects of this that this movie doesn't show, like the fact that there are voodoo doll versions of us down there. Like you saw that there was another version of Fontaine, or the main character or whatever, Tyrone, down there. But what they didn't show in the movie is like they have versions of us that are tied to us, tethered to us. They're in the here and now, and they try to use those versions of us to manipulate us and make us feel certain ways. It's like Voodoo stuff is real. That's real. Well, what would be a better voodoo doll than a literal clone of a person? So they do have that, and they have copies of all these different people. And one of the people that I talk about who has a clone, and I'm sorry for because he's not public, but he's a super famous guy. Who knows if you'll ever see it? Willem Dafoe has a copy of himself down there named David, and that's another thing is they don't talk about is the altars. So my version of me down there is an altar. I'm pretty sure his name's Walter. Walter the altar. That's funny, but yeah, and yeah, like there's clones of us down there, and they're tethered to us, and they're this town that I live in is manufactured to make us all control each other. It's manufactured like it like we have certain characters, certain archetypes that are made to interact with each other in certain ways, and the idea is to kind of keep us all in this town, to make us all not want to leave, and to make us happy with being in this kind of bubble here, and obviously not wake up, and obviously keep us in like you don't want us to be so miserable that we kill ourselves, but also they don't want us to be so high vibration and doing so well that like we figure things out and or something, you know what I mean? They want to monitor us, but basically the whole town's controlled, and they use time travel. They go as far as to use time travel to alter our lives. And like, you know, Eve Howard talked about how somebody that she knew tried to commit suicide, and she said the people in white showed up to her room and stopped her. They're in the white uniforms. That's what it's like down there. They're all wearing white uniforms. It's white everywhere. So yeah, that's another thing with like the it's hard because there's so many different underground facilities I've been to, but like with the clone ones, they really like the color white. But this is like there's like the clone facilities that are all white and they're messing with people and doing experiments. And then there's also clone facilities that are owned by like it's not all like the room full of clones that I talked about with the corridors that are stacked up and left and the right. It's not all white. It's not all white. But like, yeah, the rooms that they really like the color white, guys. This like really gets their dick hard, the color white. Sorry to use that terminology, but it's just true. It's just white everywhere. And I also heard from somebody, I don't know if it's true, but it just looks like white to us, but to ETs, they can see more colors and everything isn't all white. I don't know if that's true. I heard that somewhere. But yeah, they really like the color white. And through time travel and stuff like that, they manipulate our lives. They manipulated my life. They knew that I was waking up, and they took the precautions and fucked up my whole life in preparation for my awakening. And what they did is I used to play shows. I used to have kind of a name for myself around here. And they sabotaged my life through making me interact with people in certain ways and mind control programming and lies and stuff that's not real. It's a lot of stuff I don't want to go into. But basically, they set it up to ruin my life because they knew I was waking up. And I know that a lot of it was done through time travel. Like we can't let that happen. Let's go back and change that. Oh, we can't let that happen. Let's go back and change that. I know that happened quite a few times because I have memories of how the other timelines played out. And I know that they went back and changed certain things. So that's another thing that's not being talked about is they're using time travel to manipulate people. And not only that, through time travel, they can take your consciousness, put you in a clone, you live 20 years, then they take you back to the same point where they took you from through time travel, and your body's sitting there. They throw your consciousness back in there, and you haven't aged at all. And there's no one's going to be able to tell that you were gone for 20 years. That's how they do this. And then your alters compartmentalize the memories and delete the memories. So that's an aspect of this that's not being talked about. It's not being talked about. So yeah. Monitoring everyone. This shows like them being tortured. This shows, you know, them programming the altars. This shows all that. I think I showed everything, guys. I think I showed all the images. I'm trying to think if there's anything I left out. I don't think there is. Yeah, this is all real, guys. This movie is based on reality. They're not talking about space. They're not just turning us all into an ambiguous one race. That's not what they're doing anymore. They know that doesn't work. It's been tried in other timelines. It doesn't work. It messes things up and makes things really weird. But yeah, that's That's my, breakdown of the movie. Um, I hope it helped people get an understanding of what's going on. Now, one of the things that I want people to understand is I don't have all the answers when it comes to this clone stuff. I know a lot more than the average person. I have more memories than most people do that are in these programs and stuff like that. But I have more questions than I do answers with a lot of things. Like, I know they're sending us to space. I know a lot of things that they're doing with these clones. Oh yeah, there's other things I wanted to address too. Is the red room aspect of this? They have a red room down there where they torture people, and people can pay to watch people get tortured. There's cults, like Mason related, like Illuminati type cults, like Order, um, Ordo Templum Nephilim, Order of the Temple of Nephilim. They're allowed into these facilities. There's adrenochrome harvesting going on in these facilities where they have kids in cages and they're shocking them and torturing them, and they spinal tap them for their adrenochrome. This has been talked about in my interviews. The things that are happening in these underground facilities are atrocious. It's bad. There's a reason why it's hidden. There's a reason why you don't know about it. There's a reason why they hide it. And yeah, it's a lot of it's connected to Satanism too. That wasn't touched in this movie. But that's a real thing. Um, Hollywood's involved. They're in on it. They know about it. The high ups in Hollywood know about it all. Jeffrey Epstein type stuff, Tom Hanks type stuff. You people all know if you looked into this enough. Um, but yeah, the clones are real. The cloning programs are real. It goes way deeper than it showed in They Cloned Tyrone. They got us in space. They're seeding entire colonies of humans, but with clones and time travel and stuff. I've seen it. I've experienced it. So like it gets crazy. Like I'm talking like going back in time, finding downed warriors from battle, taking their heads off, bringing them to Valhalla, the legends of Valhalla and Valkyrie and all that. It's based on reality because they're taking people, taking their heads, throwing a regen tank. They wake up and it's like, hey, you want to help us colonize this planet? You'd be safe from your enemies and stuff. They literally did that stuff. I know that's hard for people to wrap their minds around. I know people think that's crazy and there's no way that's real. Why? Why? Because you can't understand it? Why? Because it hasn't been explained to you? Why? Because your little hand hasn't been held and you haven't been told step by step how the technology works? We'll get there eventually. I can't claim to know how it all works and tell you the science and the math behind it, but there are people out there like Matt Tracy and stuff who literally will do that. So it's not that there aren't people who can't literally explain this stuff. Who's another one? Jermaine, who I'm gonna have on the show in the near future. He's another one who can actually explain how this technology works and stuff. So yeah, I hope this was good. I had to make this like 4, 5, 6 times because I kept on having stuff happen and construction behind me and just problems, but hopefully it came out okay. Hopefully you didn't sense my frustration coming across in the video. And thank you for paying attention to me. Thank you for giving me a voice. My voice wouldn't mean anything if I wasn't being heard. So you all mean the world to me. And yeah, keep your eyes open. Keep investigating, keep searching for the truth, keep on being your own independent journalist because we are the disclosure.